It looks like Hailie Deegan is once again in trouble. Chase Elliott and Ryan Newman have announced some new sponsors that they will have for 2021. And it looks like one of the Daytona 500 possible entries is not going to be racing in this year's Daytona 500. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. We've got a lot of NASCAR news to discuss today here on the channel. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. The first story we're going to talk about is the Daytona Xfinity Series title sponsors that has been announced yesterday. The title of the race is going to be called The Beef What's for Dinner 300 for the Daytona Xfinity Series opener. Very catchy title, very interesting. I've seen some pretty cool titles. We've had the SpongeBob SquarePants from Horner 2015. This goes up there top of the K. It was one of the most interesting title sponsors for racing. Pretty cool sponsor name, if you ask me. On to the next story. Ed Gewitt is going to be the crew chief for Kyle Weatherman in the 2021 season. He'll be returning to Mike Harmon Racing for the 2021 season. Now, very interesting thing to note, Ed Gewitt had 10 top 20s with 3 different drivers for 2020, which is pretty good for a smaller organization. I don't know how good of a crew chief Ed Gewitt is. Again, 10 top 20s with a smaller team is actually really good. Congratulations to Ed Gewitt, who will be working with a very, very good driver. Yes, Mike Harmon Racing is not a top-tier organization, but I think that Kyle Weatherman is a driver who can get the best out of his equipment, and I think Ed Gewitt will be working with the driver. Again, practice qualifying won't be really a thing this year for the Xfinity Series, but Ed Gewitt will be able to build a relationship, because I believe he's worked with Kyle Weatherman in the past, so they do have that relationship working together. But Ed Gewitt will once again be working with Kyle Weatherman in the 2021 NASCAR Xfinity Series season. On to the next story. Corey Heim is going to be going full-time for Venturini Motorsports in the NASCAR ARCA Series in 2021, driving the 20 car full-time in 2021. Corey Heim, I think, is a very, very talented ARCA driver. I believe he won the season finale at Kansas, pretty much flat-out dominated that race. And I've seen some really good promise in a driver like Corey Heim. He's an up-and-coming racer in the Toyota development, and he has been very, very promising so far in his NASCAR career up to this point. I think Corey Heim will definitely be a championship contender, considering Michael Self is not going to be returning. And I don't know about Brett Holmes if he's going to be returning or not, but Corey Heim will be going full-time with this team. I expect Corey Heim to win 1 or 2 or even a couple races at least this year and be a championship contender for the ARCA Series in 2021. It's a really huge congratulations for Corey Heim. Hope he can perform very well. He really had a great race, like I said, at Kansas, dominated that race flat out. No one really could touch him, including Brett Holmes, who was one of the other contenders for that race. No one could really touch him at the end of the day, and Corey Heim was able to win, but really, really awesome opportunity. And huge congratulations to Corey Heim on going full-time with Venturini Motorsports in 2021. On to the next story. Massey is going to be returning to Beeja McLeod Motorsports in 2021, driving 12 races for the number 99 car in 2021. A&Z Companies and Gerber Collisions will sponsor Massey for the 2021 season in the 12 select races. I believe Stephen Parsons is running, I think, 9 races for the 2000. Let me double check that. Yeah, Stephen Parsons is going to be also returning to him. They actually didn't announce the number of races Stephen Parsons is going to run, but we know that Massey will run 12 races in 2021. I didn't look at the schedule, what races specifically he's going to run, but Massey, I think, is a very talented driver as well. He has some pretty good, strong runs, especially with the Beeja McLeod Motorsports organization. I'm wondering if it's just going to be Massey and Stephen Parsons in the car. Maybe it's going to be the only 2 drivers. Massey going to drive the 12 races, and the other races are going to go to Stephen Parsons. I wish both of these guys could go full-time, if you want my honest opinion. But it's really cool regardless of these guys are getting an opportunity. I think Massey, same thing I said with Stephen Parsons, try to get some top 20s out there for this team. The Xfinity Series build, while is a little bit weaker this year, you also still want to perform at the best of your abilities. And a team like this getting some top 20s would be really, really awesome. But really, really cool news here that Massey is going to be returning to Beeja McLeod Motorsports for the 2021 NASCAR Xfinity Series season. And now we're getting on to the next story of this episode. Drew Dollar is going to be returning to Venturini Motorsports for the 2021 ARCA Menards Series season, but it is only going to be a limited schedule for the 2021 ARCA season, which will be 13 races, 11 which in the main ARCA Series, and only 2 races, I think 1 in the ARCA East and 1 in the ARCA West. Drew Dollar, I think he's a decent driver. I don't think he's the best driver, let's be truly honest. But I think he's a competent enough driver to perform pretty well with this team. He did get 1 win back in 2020, winning at Talladega, and arguably the worst ARCA race in that series history. But regardless, I think Drew Dollar has a lot of potential to perform very, very well with this team. I think ultimately his goal is to go out there and try to win races once again and try to build up his reputation once again, because he did have issues with drivers like Hailie Deegan in the ARCA series. But I think Drew Dollar, he has potential, I think. Again, I do think he's there because of money. But regardless, I hope Drew Dollar can bring a lot to the table for Venturini Motorsports, you know, in 2021. Again, he was last year a full-time driver. I think he ended up finishing third in standings. But again, the ARCA field was not very strong in 2020. Hopefully, Drew Dollar can contend in the select races he is going to run. And hopefully, he can do very, very well with this team going forward in the 2021 NASCAR ARCA. Well, ARCA, because NASCAR is own it, but it's owned by ARCA. You get the point. And now we're getting on to all the sponsorship announcement stories before we get into the other two main stories of this episode. Kohler is going to be sponsoring Ryan Newman for 8 races starting at the Daytona 500 in 2021. They were teasing this last night, and here are the 8 races that Ryan Newman will have with Kohler for 2021. He will have the Daytona 500, the first Atlanta race, Darlington, Charlotte, Road America, Bristol, Talladega, and Martinsville in the playoffs. Talladega, Martinsville, and Bristol all being in the playoffs, of course. It's really, really cool news to hear that Kohler is going to be sponsoring Ryan Newman for 8 races. It seems like Ryan Newman always seems to find a way to attract sponsors. A lot of these older drivers tend to attract a lot more sponsors compared to the older guys. So it's really cool to hear that Kohler is wanting to sponsor a driver like Ryan Newman once again for 2020. And maybe it will help Ryan Newman be a contender for some of these races going forward. Hopefully it will help Roush get their equipment a little bit better. Because I think one of the issues this past year was that Roush was not that great this year. Maybe if Kohler coming on and jumping on for 8 races, maybe that could really overall help that team progress. Because Roush Fenway this past year, they were really not up to speed. They were down from 2019. Hoping with the sponsorship money they get from Kohler, especially since being an 8 racer, which is actually a pretty big deal if you ask me. Hopefully this will help Ryan Newman become a much better driver for the final seats. This might also be Ryan Newman's final year, though. He could also be racing in 2022 for all we know. But really cool to hear that Kohler is going to be returning. I think also the car looks really, really awesome, by the way. The other major sponsorship announcement that took place earlier today is that Chase Elliott, who keeps attracting new sponsors once again, will have a new sponsor called Adrenaline Shoc, which was only formed about 2 years ago, as a matter of fact. It's an energy drink company that is looking for A-list athletes to basically build up their brand. They will sponsor Chase Elliott for 2 races each year in 2021 and 2022. They will sponsor him at Atlanta in July, and they will sponsor him at Talladega in the fall as well. Really, really cool to hear that Chase Elliott is continuing to pick up sponsors. Again, Mountain Dew is also not going to be returning. One thing to note about Adrenaline Shoc is they're actually owned by Keurig's Dr. Pepper. So they do have a pretty big sponsorship with a company like Dr. Pepper. So I think Adrenaline Shoc overall coming over and sponsoring Chase Elliott for a couple races is really, really good. I know a lot of people are looking to say, what about Kyle Larson? Why are they not sponsoring Kyle Larson? Why are they going to sponsor Chase Elliott? You're going to have major sponsor corporations like Adrenaline Shoc. They're going to want to sponsor a guy like Chase Elliott, who, by the way, is the most popular driver and who basically just won the 2020 championship. So that's why a lot of the bigger companies like Lumar are jumping over to Chase Elliott to kind of fill that gap and that void of, Mountain Dew leaving earlier this year. They're not going to be returning NASCAR for the first time since like 1980. They're not going to be in NASCAR. Basically, we're starting to see some ways that Dr. Pepper come to this work, as Bubba Wallace is going to be sponsored by them. And now we know that Chase Elliott is going to be sponsored by Adrenaline Shoc, which is Dr. Pepper's energy company, because all these major soda companies have like big energy drinks, and Adrenaline Shoc will be sponsoring Chase Elliott as well. So really, really cool to hear that more sponsorship for Chase Elliott. I hope Kyle Larson can pick up some sponsorship in the future, but really cool to hear that Chase Elliott will continue to be picking up sponsors for the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series season. I don't remember what other sponsors have not been announced for Chase Elliott, but I do anticipate some other sponsors, maybe for William Byron, Kyle Larson also maybe sponsor. I don't know if Kyle Larson will get any sponsors this year. We'll have to see. And now we're getting on to the next major story of this episode. Someone actually asked Bob Pockrass a question earlier today regarding one of the organizations for the Daytona 500 for 2021. They asked about Kaulig Racing, Go Fast Racing, and about Austin Cindric. Now, Bob Pockrass actually responded to the team saying Kaulig has not announced their driver and Austin Cindric's schedule is to be determined. But one thing to note is that he also said that Go Fast Racing is not going to be racing in this year's Daytona 500. Now, Go Fast Racing has said that they were looking at running up to 6 or 7 races for 2021 and then shutting down. So to hear the news at Go Fast Racing, I'm assuming that money is the big question, because remember, they sold their charter to the new organization, the Live Fast Motorsports, which is owned by BJ McLeod and Matt Tiff. So I'm wondering what races they're going to run. I assume that they're going to run the road course races. A lot of people are intrigued to see who is going to end up driving the car for Go Fast Racing when they do run their select races. And a lot of people keep looking at Ryan Ellis, because he used to be like their PR court communications guy that they had at that team. So a lot of people look at Ryan Ellis to be the driver, but nothing has been truly announced for this 32 car at the moment. Like I said, they're supposed to be running up to 6-7 races at least. They're looking at running up to 6-7 races, but there's been nothing confirmed on what their schedule is going to be. I assume the road courses is what they're going to end up running for the 2021 season. But yeah, it kind of sucks. It takes one of the cars, because there's potentially still up to 46 or 47 cars that could be running in this year's Daytona 500, but nothing has been confirmed regarding the other teams. Regarding Kohler, we don't know the driver yet at the moment. And Austin Cindric, I don't know if he'll run the Daytona 500 or not. I wouldn't be surprised if they do put him in this year's Daytona 500 team. Penske does. Or maybe, well, Go Fast Racing. A lot of people thought maybe he'd go to Go Fast Racing for that, but now we know that Go Fast Racing isn't competing in this year's Daytona 500. I'm just really wondering at the moment who's going to end up driving for Go Fast Racing and what's going to be happening for Daytona 500 entry list and confirmation, because all the teams got to be entered within the next month or so, because the Daytona 500 is only 33 days. I think it's 33 days away from today is the Daytona 500. So hopefully we can find out where most of the rest of teams, including Rick Ware Racing, is going to be going in 2021. But we now have confirmation 100% that Go Fast Racing will not be competing in this year's Daytona 500 in 2021. And now we're getting on to the final and the biggest story of this episode. Hailie Deegan is going to have to require to take sensitivity training before the 2021 NASCAR Endurance Truck Series season at Daytona when the season opener happens. Let's get a little backstory in the situation with Hailie Deegan. For many of you that don't know, Hailie Deegan on Sunday evening, on my birthday by the way, had her first ever Twitch live stream. And Hailie Deegan basically uttered the R word, which is not the smartest word to say. She basically uttered it and someone clipped it, and then I saw a lot of people going after saying it. Now, Hailie Deegan immediately apologized for the incident within an hour. Basically, I don't know if she wrote it or a PR team. If she wrote it, then that's really good. She basically wrote an apology regarding the situation of what happened, saying, I was wrong on my part. I need to do better for my sponsors. I think that she shouldn't have said she defended the situation, but I do think that she wrote a pretty good heartfelt apology. I thought it was a really good apology regarding that. Ford Performance also responded to this apology that she ended up writing, and they basically said that she apologized. She said she's going to be better, and that's all they asked. Now, I wasn't anticipating when the situation happened that Hailie Deegan was not going to be required to really do anything. I don't think that this situation is as big as the Kyle Larson situation. I don't think it's as serious as that. I think it's not a good situation, don't get me wrong, but it's not as bad. Again, I was not personally offended by what she said. I do think some people were, saying, oh, she needs to have her career over. She needs to be fired from her team. She needs to be suspended. Yet other people thinking, oh, come on, it's not the end of the world. Let's just move on from the situation. But now she'll have to be required to take sensitivity training. I think that is a very, very fair punishment. If there really isn't even a punishment, I think it's very, very fair. She can learn from her mistakes. Again, this isn't the first time that Hailie Deegan has made a mistake. She basically called COVID-19 a hoax on her and dad's pockets, and I just have to say that she needs to just not utter things out like that, because that is very, very controversial to say. It is very, very controversial. So you really cannot say that COVID-19 is a hoax and not expect to get backlash and hurt your possibility of picking up sponsors. She's very young, though. I think she's going to learn from this, and I think she is overall going to become a better individual. Like I said, she made a pretty big mistake. I wasn't offended by the situation. I wasn't even mad at the situation. I'm just like, dang. That's funny. That's some funny stuff right there. Not what she said, don't get me wrong. I have a handicapped brother, so it can be offensive, but I wasn't offended truly by what happened in the whole situation. I think Hailie Deegan's young enough. She's 19 years old, so we kind of have to give her a little break. I look at how she does on the racetrack, and Raven actually brought us up in his video. He said he looks at more of how she does on the racetrack compared to what she does off the racetrack. And with her probably now being in the NASCAR Cup Series, they're going to be taking her a lot more seriously. And if they start seeing that she continues to do this could hurt her sponsors and her future. So I hope her PR team overall can work with her to make it better for her, and so she doesn't have to keep apologizing for big mistakes of this. Again, this is a pretty decently sized mistake. She once again got in trouble for the incident. Again, I'm not 100% mad about the situation. It is what it is. Hopefully she can learn from this, and we can all move on from this situation and just let it be and let it go overall. So, anyway, that is going to be for today's long NASCAR news video. Geez, we're here about 15.5 minutes. God dang. So, anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video. Please like and subscribe to the channel, notifications so you can be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Links in the description below, and also support me on Patreon as well. Links in the description below for that. And comment your thoughts on today's video. Do you think NASCAR made the right call by making her only go through sensitivity training, or do you think there should have been more penalties like fines handed out to Hailie Deegan? Let me know in comments below. And what are your thoughts about the sponsorship announcements regarding Adrenaline Shoc and Kohler being sponsored with Ryan Neiman and Chase Elliott? Is it good for the sport or not? Let me know in comments below. And what are your thoughts about Go Fast Racing not racing Daytona 500? Do you wish they were racing in it or not? Let me know in comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you like it so YouTube can recommend more of these great videos out to you guys. If you do that, I would greatly appreciate it. Anyway, guys, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, everybody.